Today we are here. We are going to be doing the fourth Designing Your Career workshop on how to apply design thinking mindsets to your career. So that will be the focus of today, and I'm going to explain exactly what that means in a couple of moments. So a couple of logistics that I just want to make sure everybody is aware of. You are welcome to ask questions throughout the session using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And so those questions will be answered throughout the session. And we will also take live questions at the very end of the workshop. And we will definitely be sending you a recording of today's workshop, including a worksheet with some of the activities that we're going to go through today. So definitely take notes, but know that a recording will also be sent to you. All right, so who is here today? My name is Lauren Pizer, and I am the VP of Learning Experience and a co-founder at Pathstream. I'll be leading you through this workshop today. I have coached hundreds of students through career transitions and career changes. And I am joined by my colleague, Amy Ahern, who is the VP of Career Services. And she will be helping with the questions along the way and with the live QA at the very end. So let's dive right in. Today's goal is to equip you with tools and mindsets that are rooted in design thinking to design a very fulfilling and meaningful career. So this is very lofty. So to break it down a little bit further, today is going to be about giving you mindsets and tools so that you can approach questions like, what should I do with my career? What's my passion in life? How do I find a career that's financially stable? How do I balance my career with my family, for example? It's not really about giving you answers to these questions because I certainly don't know the answers. But today is about giving you ways to approach these questions. So I have a very quick poll for all of you. Just as we're getting situated, I would like to know what broad career question, if any, you are most grappling with right now. And so I will launch that poll right now. So you'll see the options are, maybe you have a question about what you're passionate about. Maybe there's a question about a job or career and whether that's right for you. Maybe questions about quitting your job. So I'd like to know anonymously, what are some of the questions that you're wondering about right now? So I'll give that another few moments. Got lots of votes coming in. Awesome. Okay. So here is, it looks like slight winner with, I know what job I want, but I'm not sure how to get it, followed by questions around what am I passionate about and what job or career is right for me. So questions all over the board, but definitely centered around passion, career, kind of job that you might want, and how to get it. So thank you guys for sharing this and indulging me in that. I really wanted to kind of just understand what the audience was at. So related to this, why are we talking about designing our careers? You have these questions, I have these questions. We are all grappling with these kinds of big questions. And it's not just you, right? And that's because a lot of people are actually unhappy in their work. So according to a couple of recent studies, 70% of Americans are actually not happy in their jobs. And 15% of people actually hate their work. And so this was surprising to me when I saw it, because I realized that, a lot of people have these big questions about their career. This is also compounded by the fact that work is changing. The nature of work is changing. New jobs are arising. Jobs that we've had for decades are disappearing, and new tools and technologies are emerging that help us to do our job better. So there's a lot of things going on that require us to take more of a design approach to our careers. So what can we really do? Well, given the changing job market, given the uncertainty and constantly evolving nature of work, we need to adopt a different approach for our career. And that career involves what's called designer's mindsets. And this will allow us and help us to take a very intentional approach to designing our career and designing our way forward. We can't just expect to figure these things out, right? We need a different approach that involves different kinds of mindsets than we're used to using. And these designers' mindsets that I'm going to tell you about and teach you today are rooted in something called design thinking. And you may have heard of design thinking before, maybe you haven't, it doesn't matter. But basically, design thinking is a way of problem solving that has been used by product designers. So out there in the world, product designers use this way of solving problems called design thinking. And we're going to be taking those mindsets that designers use and apply them to our career. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on design thinking. There's a lot of great articles and books about it, but I just wanted you to know where this methodology is coming from. All right, so the designer's mindsets, which I'm going to teach you today, are particularly useful for what's called wicked problems. So wicked problems are things like, what do I do with my career? What am I passionate about? And these are called wicked because they are complex. They are ambiguous. There's no one right answer to these problems, and you can't just throw money at it and solve the problem. So they require a different type of approach and a way of tackling them than other problems that we have in our lives. So today I want to go through 3 designers' mindsets that are rooted in design thinking that you can apply to these wicked career problems in your life. And then we'll do some Q&A at the end to make sure that all your questions are answered. All right, okay, here are the 3 mindsets we're going to go through today. The first is reframing, the second is curiosity, and the third is a bias towards action. So let's start with the first one, reframing. And again, this is a mindset that design thinkers use, and we're going to apply that to our wicked career problems. All right. So, and when I do this today, I'm going to use an example through everything I teach you. And this example is a fictional character named Joanna. And I want you to meet her. So she's a receptionist and she doesn't really enjoy it. She wants to switch careers to something that is more stable and more future-proof. And she's really kind of wondering, what should I do with my life? So she's approaching a wicked problem. And the first thing that she's going to do is reframe it to turn her problem into something that is more manageable and more solvable. Because the problem of what do I want to do with my life is so huge, right? So through reframing, we can make it more solvable. So, all right, what is reframing? It is the process of seeing a problem or a challenge in a different way so that you can come up with fresh perspectives and new ideas. When it comes to our careers, we often think that the problem is one way. But when we dig, when we really analyze it, when we reframe it, we realize that it's actually about something else. So let's practice reframing a couple of these questions, these wicked problems. So I'm going to take you through this. I'm going to practice reframing with you. So the first question I want to reframe with you is, what should I do with my career? Common question. We know people in the room have this question. If we reframe it, we actually twist it on its head and we learn a couple things. We learn that you never actually figure out your career. That is something that we are told that in life, that we can actually figure out this one career that we should do. But that's really not the case. You may have a general direction that you're interested in, but it will change over time, right? You don't just do one thing in your career. People on this call, we're all going to have multiple careers in our lives. It's not just one thing. There's also no wrong choice. We can be happy doing many, many things in our career. The goal is to find a pathway that is more fulfilling and more meaningful than other options. But there's no wrong or right choice to our careers. And that kind of thinking makes it really, really hard to solve this type of a problem. So if I was to reframe this from what should I do with my career, I would reframe it to, I can and I will have many career interests in my life. What am I most interested in pursuing right now is really the question we should be asking ourselves. Not what do I do with the rest of my life, but what should I do right now based on what I'm interested in and what I like and what I don't like. So I just reframed one gnarly career question. Let's reframe another one together. What's my passion? This is the one we get all the time. What is my passion? So let's reframe that. And here's how I would reframe it. I would say that most people are not born with a very clear career passion. So if you think back, you might remember that there are some people maybe you went to high school with that like knew they wanted to be a doctor, right? Or they knew they wanted to be a lawyer, or they had some really clear idea. There's actually studies that have shown that those are the outliers. Those are the minority. Most people, as many as 80% of people, actually don't have a clear career vision like we think. And so that's a really important thing to keep in mind, is that passion isn't going to hit us over the head, right, one day. Passion is something that comes from taking action and exploring and figuring out what you like. Passion is cultivated, right? And that's not the way we look at passion. We often look at it as like, well, I'll figure it out because it will hit me in the face and I'll just know. And that's not really the way that our careers work. We get interested in something when we try something out. And that's often forgotten a little bit in this narrative. So the way I would reframe this question is from what's my passion in life to what do I like doing? What do I dislike doing? By trying things, I can figure out what I'm interested in and what I'm not. So that's how I would reframe this question. I've got one more for you, one more reframe I want to do, which is I'm looking at lots of jobs, but they aren't that interesting to me. How do I land this dream job, my dream job? How do I figure that out? Another common question we get. So let's reframe. There's no perfect job. Jobs change over time, okay? They have interesting aspects that are not in the job description. Interestingly, most job descriptions are incomplete or inaccurate. And so it becomes our job as job seekers to uncover what might be interesting or exciting about a role. Instead of saying, oh, I'm not interested in this role, sounds, kind of boring from the job description, you're closing yourself off from really interesting opportunities that might be waiting for you. And so the goal is not to say yes to everything, but to figure out by saying yes to what you like. So when you're looking for a job, you need to expand what you think might be interesting to you and say yes to multiple things. So I would reframe this as there are lots of options in my field, right? What kind of interesting, cool projects or opportunities might these jobs provide that I could uncover, right? I could discover them and find them fulfilling. So what I just went through are three reframes that I wanted to show you, but I do want to give you guys a chance, if you're comfortable, for me to kind of do a little bit of reframing with you live. So if you're comfortable, no worries. If not, I'm curious if you've got a wicked problem that we didn't talk about just now that you would like me to reframe. So I'm going to open up the chat, give you all a minute. Any questions, wicked problems that I can reframe for you? Yes, you can see the examples again, Felipe. So these are examples actually of wicked problems. So what should I do with my career? But you can think of your own problem. Maybe yours is a little bit, specific. Okay, nice. Some things are coming in. Should I teach literature or do digital marketing? What if I make a mistake and want to do the other? Great, good question. Mark, I'm a mid-level manager who wants to change jobs. Yes. So these are two really good examples. Let me take the second one really quick. So if I was to reframe the problem of I want to change jobs, I would look at that and say, what is it about my current job that I'm not enjoying? And I would say, what is it about my current job or field that I am enjoying? And once I looked at that, I might say, it might involve me staying at my current role, right? I could maybe get what I'm looking for if I talk to my manager and I figure out some ways that I can make my job more interesting, or I might need to leave, right? But the immediate answer might not be that you need to change jobs. It might be that you're unhappy doing the current job that you're doing. but you could be happy doing a different version of your job at your current company or doing a new job. So the question really becomes, what do I enjoy doing and what do I not enjoy doing about my current role? There's another question around what if I don't have the financial flexibility to work something that I'm passionate about? Yes, they don't pay enough. Okay, so that's a really good question that we get a lot of. And the questions that I have for you, or the reframes that I might have for you, are first to figure out what are the things that you're passionate about. Because sometimes we can gloss over what we're passionate about because we don't think we're going to be able to accomplish it. So my question, I guess, for Karen would be, what are you passionate about? And once you find out that, I would do research and get curious and try to see whether there are ways that I could make my passion for art at all financially feasible for me. So the question doesn't go, goes from, can I make enough money as an artist to survive, or whatever it is. So these are really, really great questions that I'm seeing. And I am going to go through a couple of really specific practices that you can use to reframe these. So, and after this session, I'm going to send you a worksheet that has all of these activities in them so that you can do them on your own. But today, we're just going to go through them as if, so that I'm teaching you how to do them and you can do them on your own. So, all right, let's go through this. So again, these are practices. I'm going to show you 3 practices for how you can reframe some career problems in your life. And you're going to need to set aside a little time for this, but I promise you that this will help you understand the problem that you're really trying to solve. So the first practice is a reflection activity, and it involves asking yourself, what's really going on? So you're going to take a piece of paper, and I'll give you the worksheet for this later. And the first question you're going to ask yourself and do a journal about is, what's going on in my career? You might say, I'm not loving this aspect of my job. I'm not getting paid enough. I'm having a hard time finding a new job. You might list all these things. And then I want you to sit and I want you to write again. And I want you to answer, what's really going on in my career? I want you to delve a layer deeper, right? And you might uncover that, you think you're struggling because you can't find a job. But when you really dig deep, you realize that your resume is not in a good place and you don't feel confident about your resume. And so you're struggling to find a job because your resume isn't really in the place that it needs to be. That opens up the possibility set a lot more, right? It gets you to a deeper layer that can help to reframe the problem for yourself so that you can go about solving it. So these are things that are not going to, these are things that take time, and you need to sit with them and think about, what's really going on in my career? That's really the problem here. So this is one reflection activity that you can do. Another activity that I want to show you today is, well, actually, we're going to take Joanna through this. So Joanna was the professional that I showed you previously. And she, doing this activity, let's say she decides she wants to reframe. She sits down and says, what's going on in my career? And she says, I'm not happy in my current job and I need something new. Great. She decides to reframe a little bit more. And she says, what's really going on in my career? She realizes that, I'm not challenged in my current role. There's no opportunity for growth. There's financial stability is really important to me, and I'm not finding that as a receptionist. And I want a role that utilizes my strengths. This is much more data. This is much more information than Joanna had previously. And so the possibilities can now open up for Joanna, right? Originally, she wanted to maybe switch careers and figure out her life. But now she might still switch careers, but she could also be happy in her current role if she gets more opportunities for growth and maybe a raise. So when you reframe a problem, you can see it in a different light, which helps you identify how to solve it. So this is one reflection activity that you can do. I want to take you through a second one, which is to rate yourself across 4 areas of life: work, health, love, and play. So let me explain why you're going to do this. So, after the session, I want you to sit down and I want you to rate these 4 things in your life on a scale of 0 to 10 in each of these categories. And then after you've set your rating, you're going to write a little bit about why you gave these ratings and what this is telling you kind of about your current state and what you really might need more of. So, a lot of times we think our problem is about work. But a lot of times when we take a little bit of a look deeper, we realize that there are other things going on in our lives. So, here's Joanna's example. She is really doing well on her health. She's a 9 out of 10. Work is a 4 out of 10, so it's on the lower end. Surprisingly, love and play in her life are also pretty low. So after a little bit of reflection, she realizes that work is one aspect of her life. She's not satisfied there, right? It's a 4 out of 10. But there are also other things on here that might be affecting her current state. So, Joanna might think about what might she be able to do to increase her rating in these areas of her life. How might these ratings be affecting her perception of work, if at all? So, as I said, work is one aspect of our lives, and it's important to analyze what other aspects of life might be impacting us. So, Joanna knows that she wants to solve for her problems at work, but she might not have considered that our current happiness may also be affected by love and by play in her life. So, nothing in our lives happen in a vacuum, and our life is full of all sorts of things that are impacting how we see the world every day. So this is another activity to think about and say, what's really going on here? What are other areas of my life that might also be struggling that are contributing to this feeling that I have, this question I have? So there's one more activity that I want to go through with you about reframing. And this one involves taking an audit or an inventory of your life and rating different things in terms of energy and in terms of engagement. So let's look a little bit deeper. Another way to identify and reframe a problem is to think about what work activities are bringing you energy and taking away energy, and what activities make you feel engaged and less engaged. So, for example, you're going to start by writing down all of the work activities that you do each day. And these can include other life activities too, but they might be things like schedule meetings, try to hire, a new coworker. They could be all sorts of things. And I want you to rate each one on a scale of 0 to 10 in terms of how much energy you feel doing that activity. So it would be a 0 if it's totally energy draining, or 10 if it's totally energy generating. And the same goes for engagement. You want to rate all these activities in terms of if it's engaging, which it would be, a 10, or if it's not engaging at all, which would be a 0. So let's take an example with Joanna. Joanna did this. She's in that reframing phase of her life. She wrote down 5 different things that she did on Tuesday. She answered calls, she returned voicemails, she organized the company's holiday party, she did some data entry, she trained a new team member, and she created a system for processing vacation requests. So, and she rated all of these on a scale of energy and a scale of engagement. And there's a couple things that we're noticing here. You can see that Joanna does not really enjoy data entry work or interacting with external clients. She prefers activities where she gets to work with the internal team and create new processes and plans and events, right? So what does this mean, right? It's clear that she has high energy and engagement around tasks where she's organizing, she's optimizing processes, she's generally creating order where there wasn't any previously. And she has less energy and engagement around tasks where she's interacting with clients and doing manual tasks, right? So we think about this and it means something, right, for Joanna's future. It might give her some information around what kinds of jobs she might want to pursue or what kinds of tasks she wants to ask her manager to help her do more of at work, right? So the goal of reframing is to think of a problem in a new way and try to get as much information as you can about what's really contributing to the problem. Because when you have a big wicked problem, it can feel like you just want to pull the covers over your head, right? But through these activities, you can get more information. And with information, you can really solve a problem. So let's recap just the reframing mindset, and then we'll move on to the other two. So oftentimes we try to solve too many problems at once, and we really aren't sure what the problem is. Reframing is one of those designer's mindsets that can help you identify what problem you're solving and what really may be at the root of it. Remember that we are going to have many careers in our lives, and most people don't have that singular career passion. There's also no right answer here, okay? So once you know that, you can use some practices to ensure that you're solving the right problem and reframing the problem. And those things are to ask yourself what's really going on, do that ranking of health, work, love, and play, and do that energy and engagement audit. All of those are design thinking practices, designers' mindsets that you can use to reframe some of the problems in your life. So let's move on to curiosity. So what is curiosity exactly? We know it, we know what it means, right? But in a lot of ways, when we were kids, we were super curious people. We were always getting into stuff, we were asking questions, we were exploring things. But over time, that diminishes as adults, and we become less and less curious, and we ask less and less questions. But designing our careers requires curiosity, because the answer isn't going to hit us upside the head one day. And we have to get that curiosity that we had as kids back and apply it to our careers. So curiosity is the desire to explore and investigate. You know what it means to be curious, but do you know what it means to get curious about your career? Is really what we want to talk about today. So what does it look like to get curious about your career? Okay, let me give you some examples. Maybe you would conduct informational interviews to learn more about a role or an industry or a company. Maybe you would apply to lots of jobs, even those that don't seem exciting at first, right? That's a curious mindset to say, I'm going to uncover what's interesting about this job, even though I don't know it yet. Maybe you do a bunch of desk research, right? You read about various aspects of a career. You actually use Google and you try to find out as much as you possibly can. You sign up for webinars. You do what you're doing today. You guys are already getting curious. And maybe you do some courses to learn more, right? And the last one is that you put yourself in networking situations, right? Things are opening back up. There are more opportunities for networking now than there was for the past year. So in networking situations, you can learn from other people. So we all know what curiosity is because we were once children, and we are maybe still very curious people. But can we apply this curiosity to our career in the same way? So let's take Joanna. Let's go back to her. She's done all that reframing that we did. She did lots of reflecting, and now she's starting to get curious about the things that she learned about herself in reframing. So, for example, she researches roles that leverage her strengths, and she actually comes across project management, event planning, account management, and CRM. All of these careers seem to leverage her strengths. She searches her network for people to talk to. She does some informational interviews. She does some research on CRM because she has no idea what that is. So she actually watches some videos on it. And then she also does a little bit of like personal stuff. She's researching new hobbies. She remembers that she's kind of low in the play department. So she looks into some hobbies that she might pick up on and kind of opens up her relationships, some friendships that she hasn't had in a while. So getting curious involves doing research and digging in and putting on that, I wonder what that is like kind of cap, and really trying to dive in to learn more. So some people, including myself, really struggle with curiosity. It doesn't really come naturally to me, in all honesty. And I have some friends that they're always Googling things, they're always looking for things and looking up things. And I'm just not that way really at my core. And so I have to do some practices sometimes to cultivate curiosity in myself. And I want to give you and show you one of the practices that I use frequently to help to cultivate curiosity, especially around my career. So if you're feeling stuck choosing a career or knowing kind of what your life could be like with the skills that you have, this is a really good practice. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to create 3 different alternative life plans for yourself. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And this is kind of a funny activity, but you're going to pretend that you have 3 lives, 3 careers that you could do. And I want you to come up with what you would do in each of those 3 careers or those 3 lives. And so this is really gets us out of the mindset that we have where we choose the most obvious thing, because sometimes the most obvious thing isn't necessarily the right thing. And by coming up with interesting ideas, we can get excited and get inspired. So how would you do this? Let's say you want to do this on your own. Again, this is in the worksheet that I'm going to send you, but you're first going to write out your first life plan. Okay. And so in your first life plan, that's going to be the obvious choice for your career. So this might be the thing that you most think about on a daily basis, the most obvious kind of like thing that you probably would do. So for example, let's take a fictional person. I've been a project manager. So in this plan, I sharpen my skills and I learn Agile to become a technical project manager, right? This is what this person has thought about for some time. It's in line with what they've been doing in their career. So this is their first life plan. I'm going to write this down. Then their second life plan is going to be if the first life plan totally disappeared. There was no longer any project managers ever being hired in the world. What would you do next? That's already getting a little bit challenging, right? So for this person, okay, project management doesn't exist anymore. I really like organizing and planning. So how about becoming an events manager, event planner for an expensive high-end event, like maybe corporate events or weddings? Okay, great, awesome. That's the second plan. You write that one down. Now your third plan is if money or image did not matter, what would you do? So this is really about getting curious, right? If you knew that you could make a living and that no one would laugh at you, what would you do? So I've done this activity with people before, and I've heard some of the most amazing, interesting things, like a Stanford student who was going to med school the next year talk about how he was going to move to Vegas and become a tap dancer, totally straight face. That's what he wanted to do. And I loved it because I learned something about him that I had never known. And he really was channeling that inner child, that inner curiosity that he had. So this one's not as interesting as that. But this plan, okay, I was a project manager in the first plan. I was an event planner in the second plan. In this third one, I love gardening. I'd quit my job and I'd become a full-time gardener and take landscape architecture classes on the side. That's what I would do. So this is as if money or image didn't matter. So let's do this with Joanna. So Joanna's first plan when she did this was to enroll in a training program in project management, become a PM at a local nonprofit. Great. That was the first thing that came to her mind. Her second plan was to continue to research CRM because that's something she's kind of interested in, right? So if project management doesn't exist anymore, she's going to look at CRM. She's going to teach herself some skills on Trailhead and maybe even enroll in a certificate program and try to get a promotion at her current company to using Salesforce instead of seeking a different job. And her third plan is that she's going to move to Mexico and become an expensive wedding planner at a luxury resort and learn Spanish on the side. So these are her plans. And this is really meant to be a fun activity to get you outside of yourself and thinking about what you might be curious to explore further in your career. So I have done this activity with many, many people in my career. And I want to know from you all, just in the chat, you don't know anybody here. I want to know if you could do something and if money or image didn't matter. If this was your third alternative plan, what would you do? What's the first thing that comes to mind? I'd love you to put that in the chat. Okay, Felipe already has his stand-up comic. Travel the world. Me too. Diane, me too. What else? Play cards. Babysit my grandkids. Yes. Write a book. I would live in Mexico and become a dancer. I like your gardening idea. Thank you. Events manager for something involving sports. Amazing. MLB scorekeeper. Yes. What else? Ballerina. Yes. Paint. Life coach. So thank you guys. Design pet furniture. Karen, I love that. So the idea is not that we have to go design pet furniture necessarily, right? Or become a life coach, but there's something in that plan that attracted us. And can we get curious about what that is? And can we investigate that a little bit more when we think about our careers, right? So if you love designing pet furniture, or you love, being an event planner, what about that do you love? Like, what about that is drawing you in? And how might you be able to put some of that into your career or explore that a little bit further, right? So many times we get stuck in these boxes about what we think we have to do, and we don't give ourselves a minute to get curious and think about what is really out there and what could we maybe translate into a job. So this was just one activity around curiosity, but I guarantee you that you have that inner child in you, and you can think about ways to get curious about your career interests. So let's move to the very last designer's mindset today, which is called bias to action. So you've reframed the problem, you've gotten curious, you've done your research, and now it's time to actually do something. So this one is a simple mindset, okay? Having a bias towards action means that you do things, you make decisions, you take small steps forward that will give you information and also get you closer to your meaningful career. Because it's only through doing things, through discovery, that we're gonna find that career for ourselves. So a lot of times, and for me too, the easiest thing to do is to kind of sit back and wait and get more information and then do something. But with a bias towards action, sometimes you just need to do something. Sometimes you just need to take that step, sign up for that course, go to that event. You just need to take action sometimes to get the information that you need. And so only you know if you're holding back in certain areas of your life. And the question is what is one small thing you can do to take action on your career? So let's go through a couple of examples. What does it look like to have a bias towards action? Here are examples. Literally signing up for a networking event or a conference or a panel or a webinar is an example of a bias to action. Reaching out to that person that you've been nervous to reach out to for an informational interview is a bias towards action. Applying to a certain number of jobs every week and blocking your calendar so that you can do that and nothing gets in the way is an example of a bias towards action. Signing up for an online course or an online program to learn more is an absolute bias towards action. Making the decision to quit your job. If that is a financially feasible option for you, sometimes just quitting that job is an example of something you need to do to take action in your life. And sometimes it also involves taking that short-term job that maybe you don't love, but that is going to be a stepping stone to something that you do want. So there are an endless number of things that you can do in your life to take action, and you know them way better than me. I don't know what you guys should do, but I'm asking you to put on a mindset to get into a state where you're saying yes, where you're doing things and you're taking action, even if it's small. Because it can get so easy to sit back. And so bias towards action is what designers do. It's what we need to do to really design that meaningful career. So we're coming full circle with Joanna, all right? So Joanna has reframed. She has gotten curious, right? She's done a lot of research. She's created those alternative life plans. And now it's time to make some decisions, okay? And to take some action. So she's decided that she's going to enroll in a certificate program in either project management or Salesforce CRM. She's also going to talk to her boss about taking on more project responsibilities in her job as she learns something new. She's going to put that meeting on the calendar and she's going to do it. She's going to also ask for an increase in salary. Why not? Good for her. She's taking action. She's going to look into event planning because that's a curiosity that she wants to explore further, even if she doesn't end up becoming one. She wants to know more about it. And she's going to sign up for a pottery class because she wants to think about other areas of her life that might also be a little bit low and might be lacking and needing in something. So this is not rocket science. I'm sure in your life, someone has told you to just get curious, ask questions. They probably told you to take action and make a decision. And they've probably sat down with you and worked through a problem with you. These are things that you guys have probably heard of in your life. But what I'm trying to do is give you something a little bit structured so that you can bring this into your career every day. So in terms of your next steps, I want you to practice, okay? I want you to practice reframing. And with the worksheet I give you, I want you to practice asking yourself what's really going on, rating yourself across areas of your life, and auditing your work, auditing what you're doing every day. I want you to get curious, create some alternative life plans. You guys already, you were quick on the draw in the chat. You have ideas, right? So make those plans and do them with somebody else. Do them with your family, with your kids, share them with each other and explore, research. We have at our fingertips the internet, which I sound like an old person, but I mean, it's absolutely incredible how much we can find out online. And so do some of that exploration and getting curious about things. YouTube, it's everywhere. And take that bias towards action. When you've explored and when you've gotten curious, sometimes you just have to say yes. So those are some examples. Research something, start doing something, set a goal, actually sign up for something. So what I want to do is a lot of these things that you might be thinking about are, this might make sense, but you might have some questions. So I just want to go through a couple slides and then we'll do questions and we'll totally open it up to the audience. So a couple things, if you're interested in taking the next step in your career, if you would like to have a bias towards action around something and you've thought about this and you know this is what you want to do, then I'd love for you to sign up for some of our programs, pathstream.com/programs. We have 2 new programs coming out. One new program, the Foundations of Data Science with Python, and it's offered by NYU and Emory. So if this is something you're interested in, here's some new programs that we're doing. And then we have 2 more workshops coming up. So great opportunity to get curious, to have a bias towards action. Sign up for our webinar next week, which is on how to tell your story. So a lot of times people get asked in interviews, tell me about yourself. So next week, we're going to devote a whole session to actually writing and speaking your tell me about yourself answer. And then we have our final webinar in this series on different job search stories for people that have gotten jobs in funny and conventional ways. So now I would love to take your questions. So take a minute. Tell me what sat well, what didn't sit well. I'm pretty sure that Amy likely has been answering lots of questions in the chat, but I want to see kind of where we're at.
Actually, no questions yet, so we can give everyone a minute if you want to submit anything in the Q&A. We'll just give you a minute there.
Yes. I'm reading the chat, which has a lot of stuff in it. Thank you guys for posting. Yes. So you can put the questions in the Q&A, or if you want to put them in the chat, you can put them there too. One question has come in from Felipe over imposter syndrome. And that is something that we all feel. Everybody, I feel it. I know that it's something that's pervasive. And so I think that a lot of times bias towards action is what we need to get over that imposter syndrome a little bit, because imposter syndrome is going to be with us probably all the time. And that's okay, right? We're accepting that that's something that will happen. But my question is how can you still push forward even though you might feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? And one of the ways to do that is to feel really prepared. So if you're going to do an informational interview and you have that imposter syndrome, can you be super prepared for that interview? If you're about to go to a regular job interview, can you do what you can to prepare? Can you practice in advance so that you are putting your absolute best foot forward, even though that imposter syndrome will always be underlying on the surface? And the goal is not to get rid of it, because it might not be possible to get rid of it. It will come in and out of our lives, right? But the point is to acknowledge it and push past it anyway.
That's great. And another concept from design thinking is prototyping. And so one thing you can do is start to kind of prototype what it might look like to be in this career path. Whether that means you just try a sample project that you might have to do on the job, whether it's you get an internship or a freelance project, but you start to just actually do something to move forward with that career path, and it might give you confidence too. And you'll feel less like an imposter because you've actually done some of the work before.
And Felipe, you asked a follow-up question about how do you keep your hopes up? And searching for a job is one of the most emotional things, like in the professional world, 100%. Like I talk to people all the time that feel so down when they don't hear back. It's really isolating, and it's really truly rude that a lot of companies aren't really getting back to you and just saying thanks, but no thanks even would help, right? So you're going to get your hope, like things are going to be an emotional roller coaster with looking for a job and navigating your career. And I don't have the answer to that other than knowing that people like you have done exactly what you're trying to do in the past, and you are not alone in doing what you're trying to do. And the goal is that, you if you need to step back for a couple of hours or a couple of days and recover, okay, but get right back at that and set a goal for yourself so that you can get up every week, set that hour-long time limit for you to look for jobs or study for a course or whatever it is. But having those consistent goals every week will help you to stay in it and keep your head in it. Kendall, thank you for your response in the chat about imposter syndrome. I love that. Keep that coming.
Lauren, another question we've gotten is, how do I know what gives me energy, and what should that feel like?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, sometimes there's a lot of stressors in life, and it can be really hard to like get to the bottom of what we really enjoy because there's a lot of things going on, right? And so what I would do is I would keep a piece of paper next to your desk, and or on your phone in the notes section, and I would literally write down everything you're doing in a day. And I would go back on it and take a look and say, what of these things did I enjoy? And you might have to do this for a couple of weeks to find something that you enjoyed, but look back on that and say, where did I get to a place where I almost lost track of time? When you kind of lose track of time, that is a high energy, a high engagement activity. And I'll tell you right now, I don't do things that I lose sense of time in all the time. Like that just doesn't happen. But I know that, for example, when I created this deck, that is an activity that brings me a lot of energy and engagement. And I do that, I don't know, maybe 20% of my job, but it's something that I know is a high energy activity. And I know that in any future job, I would want to have that aspect as part of it.
Great. Getting into that flow state. Karen is asking a question, which I think is very common right now, as lots of us are facing burnout during the pandemic. We've been working from home. We've been trying to think about what we really want to be doing with our life, which is, how do you stay motivated when you really don't want to work?
Yeah. I don't know the answer. I mean, I think that oh, great. Anthony's answering Diane. Thank you, Anthony. I think that there are ways that we need to kind of take a fresh look at the options available to us. A lot of times we look at things and we're like, oh, that just seems so boring, or I'm so annoyed that I have to do that. But sometimes we have to put that curiosity hat on and we have to say, okay, I don't really want to be doing this, I think, but can I get excited about something? Can I uncover something wonderful about this thing that I think I don't really want to do, but that could really bring joy to me that I'm just not aware of? So some of it is a mindset shift that you just have to kind of like fake it till you make it. You've got to put yourself in the ring and you've got to keep going. But, this goes into that activity around work, health, love, and play. A lot of times people think that their work has to be their only source of satisfaction in life. Sometimes people do really crappy jobs, but they have this amazing hobby or amazing family relationships that make that feel like it's actually enjoyable sometimes. And so the question I would have for you is like, if you're not loving your job and that's just kind of the way it is, then what other things can you decorate your life with that help to make you feel more satisfied and more happy and content?
That's
There
great.
was a question about career development and like, how do I get into that? I think that's a really good question that I can apply to everybody. So the question was basically, I want to get into this new field and I'm not really sure how to get into that new field. That's a big problem that needs to be broken down, right? And so one of the things that you can do is first figure out ways that you can prototype or test out what that career could be like. Right. So that involves a lot of curiosity and research. So if you're thinking about moving into career development as an area, I would probably do informational interviews with a bunch of people that are in career development. And I would ask them questions to learn. And I would not put on a, like, I have to decide, I have to figure out what I'm doing. I would put on a learning mindset and an exploration mindset. And first understand the role. And then I would go about talking to them and asking them questions like, if you were me, how would you make a career change into this area? If you were me, what kind of education program would you be in to help learn about this area? So instead of expecting yourself to come up with all the answers, you need to leverage your network, relationships, research to help understand what it could really be like and dip your toe in a little bit, like somebody else said in this chat, and understand if this is for you. There's always this crazy story that I've heard about how somebody was like, I want to be a doctor. I just know I want to be a doctor. They get all the way to med school and then they see blood and they totally freak out and they hate it, right? And they drop out. And that's an extreme example, but sometimes we need to try something first. We need to just do small prototypes in something before we truly understand and know if it's right for us. So take those baby steps as many places as you can. Thank you, Kendall, for your responses. Any other questions or thoughts? I really appreciate how honest people are being in the chat. Like, this is an emotional topic. And so I appreciate that and would love to hear more from people.
I think one theme that is really coming out too, and when you're thinking about how you stay motivated, is breaking things down into concrete milestones or manageable steps. So sometimes when you're thinking about big things like, how do I stay motivated at work, or how do I switch careers, they can seem just like overwhelming and you don't even know where to start. And that's where this idea of like, set a big picture goal and then really start to break it down into concrete actions you can take this month, this week, this day. So it's like, I'm going to reach out to 5 different people. I'm going to schedule 1 informational interview. I'm going to watch 1 YouTube video that gives me kind of a day in the life of this new career path. So just keep breaking it down as much as possible. And that can both help you gain momentum and feel like you're making some progress, and also just keep it a lot more realistic instead of thinking of these like huge challenges you have to overcome. Kim is also asking about viewing previous webinars in the series, and those are both posted on the YouTube channel that Anthony has linked to here, as well as on the pathstream.com website. So we will link to both places if you want to go back and look at those.
All right. Well, for me, this has been, yes, we will send, Claire, we will send the worksheet through email tomorrow along with the recording. So all this will be sent to you. And actually, we can probably put it in the chat. Veronica, if you can throw it in the chat, we can do that now. But basically, it's a Google Doc and you'll make a copy of it. And you'll be able to start doing these activities on your own. So it's really going to take that commitment, that separated time from your schedule. But these are practices that I promise you that when you let them sink in, they'll help you to kind of approach your career in a more generative way. And thank you for posting the worksheet. It's in the chat. All right. Well, I so appreciated you all being here, and I appreciate all of the questions and the genuine honesty that was shared in the chat, and just people being open about their lives and their careers. Like, that's really where it starts. So thank you all so much. And we will see you next week when we do Telling Your Story.